Well, let's unpack the Jets and Commanders, shall we? Because
Sure.
You guys went to joint practice in New York last week between the Giants and the Lions. The Jets said, let's have the Commanders in town, shall we? Joint practices, they have preseason scheduled for Saturday. And the Commanders' rookie quarterback, Jaden Daniels, will get the start for the Commanders.
Hell yes.
Jets head coach Robert Saleh is loving what Washington is doing for the direction that they're going in.
Everything about him is unbelievable. You spend a minute with him, and you're going to want another hour. So he speaks the right messages. He treats people the right way. He demands the most. He demands and commands the most out of everybody, and really happy for him. I know they're excited about that quarterback too. So really excited for him and Adam Peters, who their GM. They're going to get that franchise turned around.
Rob?
Sounds like Dan Quinn has an impeccable reputation around the league, especially if you ask Saleh. Do we agree, though, with Saleh, Peter, that the Commanders, the direction that Dan Quinn and the new ownership and management has them going in, could you consider them a sleeper in the NFC?
You sure can. Saleh has history with them. Obviously, with Dan Quinn, they were Seattle guys, and then Adam Peters, who is the new general manager of the Washington Commanders, first-year guy, was in San Francisco for the last decade, and he and Saleh are really close friends. So you've got this joint practice right now. And as we've learned, you can now be fined for fights at a joint practice. I'm looking for this to be chippy, but not to the level that we saw Lions versus Giants. I think the league sent out a stern warning. Real quick, I spoke to some sources there. A lot of the Brooklyn Nets organization, their front office is going to come and observe practice because they have connections with both teams. I think it's going to be a scene today. It's drizzling right now in New Jersey. It's 8:03 a.m. and it's supposed to be going to rain a bit more and more. But you're talking about the Washington side of it. We already did the Jets parade the first 2 days on this show about how great they look.
They do.
Washington is sneaky because, yes, Jaden Daniels is the headliner, and everyone's talking about Jaden Daniels. But this offseason, they skipped and fast-forwarded a bit, and they're like, we don't want to just be this rebuilding young team. Look at some of the veterans they brought in. Dan Quinn, obviously, is the head coach. This is a guy who's been through it all. Obviously, was in Seattle when they won a Super Bowl, but then also was, of course, with the Falcons for all those years, went to Super Bowls and playoffs. But the players that they got, guys like Austin Eckler has been in the league a long time. He's going to be a sounding board for Jaden Daniels. Guys like Zach Ertz, think he's going to be a sounding board for Jaden Daniels. And then the guy that I love is Bobby Wagner's now calling the shots on defense. Quick trivia. Can you name which player in the NFL led the league in tackles last year?
I only go for the context, Peter. Is it Zaire Franklin on the Colts?
Are you leading us to Bobby Wagner?
Bobby Wagner. Still led the league in tackles.
Your lead-up is usually a little more deceiving.
183 tackles last year, 96 of them solo. So, you're talking about Ertz, talking about Eckler, you're talking about Marcus Mariota as the backup quarterback who's seen it all. I think as much as we rave about Caleb Williams' situation, and he's got all these amazing weapons, I looked at that quarterback room on Hard Knocks. Brett Rippon, Austin Reed, Tyson Bagent. Mariota's seen it all. Yeah. Daniels can come out. They were both number 2 overall picks. Both were Heisman winners, and both are able to talk about being a quarterback at this level. So no one's picking Washington right now. Let's not look at Washington as some rebuilding squad with a bunch of young faces you've never heard of. There are a lot of veterans and a lot of experience in that building.
When you hear Wagner and Eckler, you get a little bit of an Expendables vibe. You know what I mean?
Do you feel like it's that?
I don't know.
Best days are not. No,
maybe. I mean, those guys have played a lot of football and they're good players and they're good locker room leaders. But you get everybody together and Avengers! What's the net product? You know what I'm saying?
Not Avengers.
Expendables. Remember when Van Damme and Arnold?
Oh, the old guys.
The Avengers might be the Chiefs.
Yeah, right.
The Expendables might be.
The Fantastic Four is the new one now. That's all that. But Expendables are the old bros.
I'm excited about this team, but I will say that I do think that this is, for me, is a rebuild for the Commanders. Yeah. They've got some cool pieces. Austin Eckler, I love his game. I love B-Wag's game. But what I've seen is sometimes when you're bringing these different teams together, you start to see, we're going to pick this veteran, that veteran, and throw them all into one pot. And the expectation is we're going to make some noise. But that stuff takes time to gel. It is not just one thing that it just happens and you throw in a new coach. The headlines sounds good, but the headlines aren't necessarily the gelling factor for a team. It's that camaraderie and some teams are different. But I think with the Commanders, so many of these different pieces just feel like they're not there yet. I think in 2025, they keep this thing together. I think we could see something. They need some improvement on that offensive line. There's some upgrades that they need. I know Sam Cosme, he's a pretty good and outstanding player, but that's kind of where I land on that one.
It's almost like you take all the successes that the veterans had, you add it together, and you're like, well, you must get this. Like, this is the ipso facto.
I wish it worked that way. And Akbar, it's very practical, very reasoned take. I'm going to tend to just go completely optimistic because I went on the X before the show started. I'm trying to call it X.
But then what do you call
what are you supposed to call it? What do you call it when you make a statement on the X, though? Because
X'd.
You
X'd.
Yeah. The X.
I went on Twitter, bad boy life, and I said right before the show, I said, we're opening the show with a team I can't really remember the last time we ever talked about. I don't even know if they were called the Commanders when we last opened the show with them. And that's why it's really exciting right now. And I would say to Commanders fans, buy the jersey right now. Buy the jersey. Buy the ticket. Go to a game. Go to training camp because this is something that maybe happens once in your life. By that I mean you have a brand new head coach and a brand new quarterback. And not just any head coach, a guy who's been to the Super Bowl, a guy who's universally respected. And not just any quarterback, number 2 pick, Heisman winner, together at the same time. And I think this is the most exciting camp for this franchise in at least 20 years. You could even go further, just a little history lesson. So you go back, you're like, wow, remember the first RG3 camp? Sure, yeah, but Mike Shanahan was there, and they'd just gone through 2 terrible years with Rex Grossman and zombie Donovan McNabb, and like there wasn't that newness there. Then you go to the second RG3 camp. He's coming off this massive injury. It kind of dampened everything. Jay Gruden was excited when they brought him in, but then he was with Kirk Cousins. He'd been there for a while. He was like a 4th-round pick. It wasn't the juice of Jaden Daniels, and that's to say nothing of the Ron Rivera era, which is, Alex Smith and Sam Howell and all this type of stuff. New coach, new quarterback, and I have to say, if you're looking at the NFC East, don't tell me that thing is just locked up solid. There's all kinds of garbage going around with all those teams. The Eagles, we still don't know what the hell happened. The Cowboys are the Cowboys. And the Giants, they're 29th in the Super Bowl odds. So, why not Washington to go and make a run this year? You look at the quarterback and the coach. This is an exciting time to be a Commanders fan. Maybe for the first time ever in the month of August. It's very exciting. Buy the jersey. Buy the fat head. Get the tattoo if you want. Do it all. Enjoy. This is why you're a fan. This really matters.
Get the Snuggie so you can sit on your couch and be wrapped in it.
Yeah,
be
I thought about Snuggies in a minute, Jamie, but you're right. Buy it.
Hearing Saleh talk about his connection to Dan Quinn and how much, he appreciates him and that he's the right guy to put this, it reminds me of when we talked to Saleh a time ago and asked him, one of his acronyms. And what was it, Kyle? The
PHW. That's the supplement that Robert Saleh takes. PHW. I'm like, wow, what is that? I want to get some of that. And what is that? When he goes, pure hard work. You're like, oh, I love Robert Saleh.
And sometimes that works on certain rosters or teams. Like Dan Quinn, I remember doing his games in Atlanta, and he's the guy that had the ball on the wall, and you're supposed to go around and just hit it everywhere you went. He likes all that stuff. So Kyle, let me ask you this professional opinion on this shirt that we saw Dan Quinn wearing at the beginning of Peter's tape. I asked
I don't know. What shirt's he got? I already like it.
W, work. Oh. Your thoughts, Kyle?
Well, I hope it's the first of a series. He just think of all these W words. Will and I can't think of any others.
Win,
Peter, that would be a big one.
Yeah.
He's literally going to be stacking dubs with the T-shirt. Dan Quinn's this guy. Peter's talked about it for years. The old Pete Carroll school of shooting basketballs and playing Rage Against the Machine. This is the old school guy, but kind of young, relatable. We love Dan Quinn for a long time.
They lost the Super Bowl, and Dan Quinn came on our show and sat at the table the very next offseason, and a lot of coaches wouldn't. And we said, well, what's your feelings right now? And he goes, our message to the team is embrace the suck. Embrace this. This sucks.
There's the 28-3 Super Bowl.
It's 28-3.
The worst meltdown of all time.
He shows up at our table and he's like, embrace the suck. You have to go head on. Dan Quinn is classically trained in going through the muck before you can enjoy it. He's a guy who's very close with the Navy SEALs, brings them into practice very often, and has these guys talk to the players. There is a culture with Dan Quinn that is coming, and it is more than football. And I think this is right where they want to be, where no one's talking about, where Kyle, you're being completely honest. When was the last time we started Good Morning Football with a Commanders talk? And I think they're buying in. I like it. I like the staff.
Do you have is your Pollyanna alarm going off by that? I mean, sometimes, especially in August, we're like, this team's the greatest, And Akbar's kind of like, no, this is going to take a year. They got guys who need to gel, and they have a young quarterback. Is that going off at all for you? A little bit.
It is, but they've always had, they've been bad for so long that they collected all this first-round talent. So you've got Payne, you've got Allen, you've got... Now, of course, you add in McLaurin, who, by the way, Terry McLaurin is a very good player. And Jahan Dotson is a first-round pick. So, the talent's there. And now, it's nothing against Ron's, regime. We love Ron. It's fresh, it's new, and it's the Dan Quinn stuff, which is completely different than what Rivera was.
I will say I do get down with that whole Navy SEAL stuff. I've had that where coaches have brought in like a Navy SEALs guy, and for whatever reason, you say Navy SEALs and play, your mind
utmost respect, right?
Yeah, it's the respect, it's the hard work. Like they epitomize what it means. That's something that can stay with a team for a very long time. You don't forget that.
Peter, how does Cliff Kingsbury fit into this personality-wise?
Oh yeah, how have we not gotten there?
They're great. The two of them are great, and I was talking to those guys. So they're in New Jersey and New York City Thursday, Friday, and I just told Cliff, like, we don't need to have a huge party at One Oak tonight. Let's just take it easy. Let's just enjoy it. No, he's having a great time, and he says Daniels is putting the work in. So I can't speak to all the other rookies. I'm sure everyone's putting the work in, but like, to a man, Jaden Daniels is there at 6 a.m. every day, and he is there till the end. And I know that's cliche, but like.
So he's not like Kyler was when he was a rookie. Come on, let's be honest. Kyler had some learning curve to do, and Cliff pushed him, right?
Sure.
It's the reason Cliff is in Arizona right now.
Sure.
Okay.
Sure. I don't think he was comparing the two to the two. He's just saying this kid loves ball. Yeah. That's what it is.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I don't think it's cliche anymore. I think actually enough of us are burned by rookie quarterbacks that we wanted so badly to be good. Like I think of Johnny Manziel, and like how do you have so much talent and not show up at the building first? Like how do you do that? You're making a decision to not. I still am refreshed when I hear that quarterbacks are doing that, to be honest.
Yeah, it's great.
All right.
Again, not Anthony Richardson last year with 13 career starts. I think Jaden Daniels started like 50 games in college and did it all. So he's an experienced guy who speaks the language of quarterback and can also lead.